Ryan. Peter, oh, is he on?
Not yet.
Okay, all right. Peter Bakula.
Here.
Kate O'Brien. Ann Quinn.
Present.
Dawn McAllister. Wes Merrill.
Here.
Stephanie Delaire.
Here.
Morgan Yeo.
Here.
Francis Kalugi.
Here.
Tom Pappas.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all for joining us tonight. This is kind of a special meeting because we typically don't meet in the summer, but with everything going on with COVID and major changes to what's happening with our city and the library services, we needed to meet again this Monday. We were given the minutes from the director, Kate. Did everyone have a chance to review, and is there any discussion?
I have a comment.
Go ahead, Ann.
When you're listing the roll call, it would be useful to have the names of the non-attendees, people who are absent, I think.
So mark absent versus present.
It's a format thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
No biggie, but I think everyone was present last time.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I was. If you look at the minutes, everybody was present at the last meeting.
I don't count. So I just throw that out as a format. That's all.
Okay. So I hear a motion to accept. Oh, go ahead, Wes. Sorry.
I'm making a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay, great.
Second.
Second, great, Tom. And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Thank you. Okay, Kate, have we received any communication to the library?
Not in the last week, no.
Yep, no communication, great. Okay, and at this time, we will accept the report of the library director, which you all received in your email today. Thank you, Kate.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you all. Okay, so the director's report to the Board of Library Trustees, August 2020. Staffing. Staff is currently working in the main library 2 full days per week and 1 morning per month at the branches, at the main library, sorry. On their days not in the library, they are working from home. Branch staff continues to work in the branches on their days not scheduled in the main library. We have found that since curbside services are so labor intensive, that staff want to accomplish more while in the buildings than they have time for. Therefore, we will be asking staff to return to working in the building full-time beginning the week after Labor Day. I'm awaiting guidance from the MBLC regarding the required number of hours open to maintain state certification. I hope to meet all other requirements other than the city budget for FY21. Under the old MBLC rules, the main library would need to return to its full 63 hours open, or 90% of that, which is 57, over 6 days a week for the public beginning after Labor Day. It is unclear how this number factors in when not open to the public, and I'm hoping that the MBLC provides more clarification on this issue soon. Due to staffing cuts, we will not be able to open on Sundays, so the remaining main library hours of Mondays through Thursdays 9 to 9, Fridays 9 to 1, and Saturdays 9 to 5 bring us to 60 hours per week over 6 days. Staff continue to diligently follow social distancing and safety protocols. Staff remain healthy and adhering to city guidelines regarding filling out daily health logs and staying home when not feeling well. And then the position of assistant director is currently vacant and has yet to be posted by HR. President Najjar and I have discussed the posting of this position with the head of human resources multiple times and will update the board once a decision has been made to go ahead with posting the position. It should be noted that interim assistant director Hayden has served in this position in addition to fulfilling her role as senior head of children's services since October 3rd, 2019, exactly 10 months ago today, and for exactly 5 months since I became permanent director. Services. Curbside pickup of library materials has proven to be incredibly popular, with an average of 40 to 50 patrons picking up materials every Monday through Thursday and Saturday mornings. 2 weeks ago, we introduced curbside printing, by which patrons email us documents, we print them, and they pick them up during normal curbside pickup hours. I'll be reaching out to the director of the Peabody Council on Aging to begin a mail-a-book deliveries for their homebound patrons, in addition to our current homebound delivery system. Over the next week, we will be reintroducing the museum pass reservation system now that many museums have reopened with new rules and regulations. We'll also be introducing book grab bags, which will allow us to help patrons find new materials through Reader's Advisory. Patrons may choose to receive up to 5 brand new books, DVDs, or audiobooks from the genre of their choice, such as adult nonfiction or teen graphic novels, or may ask for books on a certain subject, i.e. turtles for a 3-year-old. In this way, patrons will stay in tune with our new arrivals and keep utilizing our curbside services in a different way. Senior West Branch librarian Christy Bryant has partnered with Peabody TV and the Peabody Historical Society to launch the local history project COVID Chronicles, inviting Peabody residents to chronicle and preserve their experiences during this pandemic. More information can be found at this website. Senior Adult Services and Public Programming librarian Gabriella Toth is also adding more resources to our library of things, for which many items were purchased last year that were never circulated, like ukuleles, yoga mats, a turntable, etc. We feel that many of these items, plus new items such as a projector, games, and other activities, will be helpful and interesting to patrons during these times. I've included the proposed lending policy for all Library of Things items and would appreciate the board's approval this evening. Also being added to the Library of Things will be Chromebooks and additional Wi-Fi hotspots for patron use, using state aid funds that have already been allocated for materials, which are considered to be anything that circulates. We believe that offering this technology will help our patrons who may be missing access to our in-building computers, and we also feel that adding Wi-Fi hotspots will help students when school begins, assuming there is a virtual aspect to the school year. We will create a specific lending policy for Chromebooks and present it to the board when it's available. All 3 libraries remain closed to the public, with services being offered out of the main library. At this time, I strongly believe that it is in the best interest of our staff and patrons to continue offering virtual and curbside services and programs to patrons for the rest of the summer. Opening to the public at this point would likely mean an end to our curbside and virtual services, as the monitoring, cleaning, and safety protocols that would be necessary would need to be the focus of staff time in the building. In addition, there are capacity limits to the spaces that are nearly filled right now due to staff presence and the full-time presence that is expected in early September. Staff are busy working on every way we can to help patrons from home, from their cars in the parking lot, over the phone, over email, and through our website and virtual programming. I believe that the most prudent action to take right now is to have more staff in the building in order to enhance our current offerings, to add new services, and to be present in the building to best serve those who can be helped without setting foot in the library. Buildings and grounds. The main library elevator failed its annual inspection due to the problems with leveling and speed that we've been having for years. We have until October 15th to pass a new inspection. The head of city facilities and I plan on asking City Elevator to fix the problem at the beginning of September. Of course, we're always searching for a long-term fix for these issues, which has eluded us thus far. The cold water pump was replaced at the beginning of July as it had failed, and Limbach will be in the main library tomorrow morning to perform our annual HVAC checkup and will install upgraded filters. The lock to the vault was stuck last week due to an issue of heat and humidity inside the vault itself, given the lack of HVAC in the vault, in combination with the controlled climate on the outside of the door. The locksmith cleaned the lock and pin mechanisms and found much built up dust in the grease, which also led to this temporary sticking. And then custodians will be coming in a 3rd day every week to work on the grounds and outsides of all locations this week. They are also beginning a monthly spraying of all locations with the germ eliminating spray that is used in the schools and lasts 4 to 6 weeks on surfaces. Peabody School Department proposal. The assistant superintendent approached me regarding using library spaces as hosts for daycare if the city adopts a hybrid in-person and virtual learning model for the fall. This model will be made public and voted on at tomorrow evening's school board meeting. The current proposal states that the outside organization that currently provides before and after care for kids only, or FKO, will use spaces around the city to provide daycare for students on their days when they are not scheduled for in-classroom learning. Our branch program rooms were suggested as a possible location for these daycares, and I was approached regarding this on Friday. The details are still far from final, but it has been proposed that small groups of students would be put in daycare classes together with 2 FKO staff during normal school day hours, and would use our South Branch and West Branch program rooms as their classrooms on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Library staff would play no role in this daycare. We would only provide the physical space. Based on current mandates for capacity in libraries and schools, the West Branch Library's program room could accommodate 9.4 people, and the South Branch Library's program room would accommodate 5.92 people, including both students and staff. So some considerations. Library staff currently work in both branches on Mondays through Thursdays. With these children in the building, this will mean that library staff are no longer able to work in the branches, as capacity numbers will quickly be reached and shared restrooms and facilities will cause a problem. Branch staff will now only have access to their collections 1 day a week if they are comfortable coming in on Wednesdays if properly cleaned, and therefore curbside services will be affected. Library custodial staff do not have the time or resources to be responsible for cleaning and sanitizing the program rooms after school use. If library staff isn't in the building, daycare providers will need to adhere to rules stating that children are not allowed into the rest of the library. If masks come off and children enter the library space, not to mention touching books and materials, this puts staff at risk. Current before and aftercare programs are not free to students, although there are vouchers and scholarships available. If this is not a free program, it may conflict with the library's policy that commercial use of meeting rooms is strictly prohibited. Overall, while the education of Peabody students is of course paramount to our city, the safety of library staff and functioning of library services is my first priority and responsibility. I feel that there are many details and logistics that need to be worked out before agreeing to participate in this way, and would appreciate the board's feedback. Budget. Due to various vacations, an updated budget for FY21 is not available yet, unfortunately. Staff have begun ordering new materials, and all budgets have been adjusted to reflect our overall 17.21% cuts for FY21. There will be additional budget meetings coming up, as we were told in June, reflecting the current state of the city's finances, so this budget may still be in flux. As we are unlikely to receive MBLC state certification for FY21, Interim Assistant Director Hayden and myself have begun planning adjustments to the spending of current state aid funds to both fill in for lost city funds this year and to save funds for what will likely be lean times ahead. We have approximately $110,000 in saved state aid funds from previous years, and those funds will be maybe spent at any time for any purpose the library deems necessary. Policy. As was mentioned before, we are in the midst of adding new items to our Library of Things collection, and I have attached the lending policy to be agreed to by all patrons. I would appreciate the board's approval this evening, and I sent that as a separate document with this email today. And then archives and Audubons. When we last spoke of this, it was decided to continue to evaluate the value and history of the library's Chickering piano. However, due to the city's discouragement of inviting unnecessary people into the buildings, we are not able to invite anyone from the outside into the buildings to continue the evaluation. I believe we should discuss this evening the state of this project. And then the 20 Audubon prints that were sent out for conservation last spring have come home to roost. This batch will be paid for, as always, by splitting the cost between state aid, the Sawitsky Trust, and the foundation. I would appreciate a conversation this evening regarding the next step for this project. I know that we are legally bound to continue conservation, but have been unable to locate the specific language and stipulations. My fear is that without state aid for FY21, and assuming that the foundation faces the financial difficulties that many nonprofit organizations are facing these days, the funds will not be available for a full batch of 20. This current batch's final cost is $21,000. Deborah LaCamera at Studio TKM is amenable to working on a smaller batch this year if we choose to do so. And then below is the link to the Dropbox folder that includes before and after images of all 20 prints. The end.
Thank you.
I would like to just say thank you, Kate. You have just been doing yeoman's work through all this difficulty, and I'm just grateful that we have you there.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
I concur.
It's definitely been a team effort with Al and with the whole staff. This has been quite an adventure for all of us, and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears has gone into all of the last couple months of this. So thank you. It's nice to hear that the staff will appreciate this too.
Let's start with any questions for Kate regarding her report.
I have a question. I don't
I have a
understand.
question.
Let's raise our hands. Go ahead, Ann.
The business about printing documents for patrons and delivering them. What is that? Is that if for people who don't have their own printer?
Yeah, we have a bunch of patrons who come in who run in just to use our computers quickly to print out things and then leave, who they already have the documents prepared. We basically now we set up a unique and dedicated email address through our Noble system where people send us emails as attachments, whatever they need, whether it's a picture or a PDF or a text form or whatever it is. And then we, within a couple hours, print it out for them to their specifications, whether it's black and white or color, and double-sided, single-sided, however many copies. And then we put it in an envelope with their name, and then we email them back and say it's ready. And then they just make an appointment through our normal curbside pickup
Wow.
calendar and come pick it up.
Okay.
Anything else? Any other questions?
Yeah, this is Tom.
Rick is next, Tom. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Stephanie. I just want to make a point on the Audubon prints. We've been doing this from the late 70s, early 80s. We usually do 20 per year. I know we don't have the document in front of us, but the way I understand it was never any set amount. It's just we had to maintain them and take care of them. And we've updated or we refurbished, refinished all the worst ones. We're down now to the lighter or better shape Audubon prints. I would suggest that we trim it a lot. We split it with the state. I would say, can we do 5, or even if everybody's okay with 10, then we're not spending any more money, even though I think if we do 5 in these COVID times, I think we're meeting the spirit of the legislation or court order. Thank you.
Mhm. That's a great idea, Rick, because we would be able to, well, Kate, if you want to take a look at your budget, I know it's the Swirsky, I say that correctly, fund, part foundation, and part state aid. Is that correct?
Correct. In our current state aid, what we have left, that's basically leftovers from the last 2 or 3 years, plus what was not spent this year. We have a total allocated of, I think, $11,000 for Audubons, and I'm about to spend $7,000 of it. That was our chunk of the most recent batch to come back.
Right.
So we have about $4,000 that's already been allocated that I'm not going to ask to be reallocated to something else.
Okay.
I think if we can figure out a way, I mean, it's still a significant amount of money. That's not nothing. So I think if we can find a way to keep us, I don't necessarily want to spend all of that $4,000 though, because I worry if we're out of certification for multiple years, which at this point, it takes about certifications based on the last 3-year averages of budgets. So assuming that it takes us FY 21, 22, and 23 to get certified again, so we're talking FY 23, 24. I'd like to not spend that whole $4,000 and be out basically for the next couple years.
So it's roughly $1,000 a print, kind of, right? Give or take.
Basically, yeah, it depends on how, in what bad shape it's in.
So if we did 5 prints, we're looking at $5,000, or if we want to round it to 6 with a third, and third. So if we gave 2, 2, and 2 from each entity that was contributing toward the restoration, perhaps that could be a target.
Okay.
You know, I don't know. That's just an idea. Anybody else have any other thoughts?
I'm just thinking that, I mean, we've been doing this for many years, as Rick has said. I think this is certainly an unusual situation, and I don't think we could be criticized for not doing anything for a few years if we feel we can go that route.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead, Ann.
For several years, I've been trying to get a hold of the copy of the court order so that we can see just exactly what the language is in that. And I wonder, is that something that Eric has, or is it in the director's office files? Where is that?
I haven't been able to find anything in the director's office files, but that's a good idea to check with Eric. Stephanie, one of our attendees has their hands up if you want to.
Oh, sorry. Hold on. Let's take a quick look. Participants. Joyce McKay. Oh, Dawn. Okay, let's see.
Oh, is that Don? I'll just promote him then.
Yep. It says Joyce McAllister. Must be Dawn.
Is that Don?
We have to unmute him. He has to unmute himself, I think.
While he's going, do we have a city lawyer that can take a look at this and sort of read the fine prints for us and work on that? Because I mean, I know that it's helpful for me in my other life to have someone else figure out what we can and cannot do between the lines.
That court order has to be somewhere. And I've been asking about it for years.
Well, let's see what Eric comes up with. He would be
So
a
let's
good
put
place to
that
start.
there. It must be there somewhere.
Maybe you can, yeah, if you would check on that, Kate, thank you. Um,
Kate, I'll ask Eric. I'll talk to Eric about it. You've got enough to do.
I'm going to see him we work together on Thursday, so we'll talk to him in person on
Oh,
Thursday. Thank you, Dan.
okay.
I'll see him on Thursday. But yeah, Stephanie Dallaire, I agree. We need to figure out exactly what the legalese is here, because fortunately, we've never been in a situation where it's been an issue, but now this is,
Right.
unprecedented times and a very bad thing to have to discuss not doing this. So we need to figure out what's allowed and what we're going to get in trouble for. So it's a good idea.
Okay.
Okay.
yeah, we've been at this, I mean, like you've all mentioned, we've done our due diligence and we have been at a very good pace thus far. And it is, like Wes said, it's unprecedented times. If we took a break, I don't think anything would come of it. I just hate to get out of the groove that we're in if, because once you put something aside and let it go, it's always hard to come back in. And it's not a huge amount of money when you look at it. Actually, do you have the treasurer's report? Do you show what's in that line, the Sawitsky Fund?
I don't have it right now.
Okay, so let's
there's been a lot of overlapping vacations over the last couple of weeks.
Of course, no problem. So let's table that and we'll talk about that as old business next time. And we'll just check in on what the Sawitsky Fund balance is. You can kind of think on the state aid, kind of think on that. And then we can, I know you've reached out to Martha Holden, who's the president currently of the foundation, because that money also comes from the foundation too. So we have a little time. We'll discuss that again.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Kate regarding her director's report?
I do. This is Tom.
Yeah.
And regarding the elevator, and this is also for you, Rich. So we have a problem. We're not going to pass inspection. We have till October to pass it. And there's a couple of concerns intertwining. We're having some ideas floated out there during the pandemic to have children inside the library when we have limited a population that's allowed inside that building, right? So I don't know where the thinking is on the safety of these kids being in a library where there's no systems in place to disinfect and to keep things clean, like the bathrooms. That kind of bothers me. And at that point in time, at the same time, we'll have an elevator that's ready to not pass inspection.
So the elevator, I'm sorry, the elevator is at the main library and we're just talking kids at the branches.
Okay, is there any talk about the main library here? You see the south and the west only on this.
So there was, it was floated to me very briefly, but I don't see how we could do that and continue to function as a library.
Okay.
It would need to be a room that is closed offable, for lack of a better word, from the rest of the library and has dedicated facilities like dedicated restrooms. So that only really brings to mind the children's library and then the creativity lab, but then you're dealing with the elevator and you're dealing with our only true ADA compliant entrance. And that means, honestly, curbside pickup would have to stop. The problem is as soon as you get kids in here, curbside pickup would have to stop because we are basically the children's library has totally been turned into curbside pickup headquarters. So it would mean a huge redesigning of this system that works right now. And they would be in spaces where we have a lot of staff working and they would really, our building capacities would be hit really quickly. So if we were going to open to the public, we wouldn't be able to because we have these 10 or 20 kids in the building as well.
That's not what we're all
okay.
about.
It's not
Library first and foremost. Yeah.
I think that there's been some confusion over even explaining how the branches work, that the fact that the libraries are workplaces right now, they're not empty buildings. And that's something I've had to explain multiple times, that there are staff in here 4 or 5 days a week from 9 to 5 doing work. It's not just a building of books sitting there.
Right, right.
So who's going to make the ultimate decision if children will be brought to our library to have daycare?
I'm not sure.
Do you have any control over saying yes or no on that?
I was asked, I was asked in this meeting today, it's all kind of as yet unofficial. And this was basically the first conversation with different interested parties from the school and from other organizations to kind of start this conversation for the meeting that will be, for the information that will be presented at the school board tomorrow night. And then there will be more information about that. I made it very clear my concerns about the branches because they are still workplaces and how it will stop the branches from functioning, and staff will not be able to be in there during the day because of capacity limits and kids running around, and my concerns about cleaning and safety, and the library is not functioning. And I have a couple, I think that if I could get a guarantee that if the library staff wasn't in there, if we figured out a way for staff to not be in there a couple days a week, that I could get a guarantee that the children and the staff would only stay in the program rooms and the restroom and not leave and wander around the library, which I think is hard to do with a bunch of kids because there's books to pick up. If I could get a guarantee that they would be sequestered in the program room, and then I could get a guarantee that the school department would send in their custodians to clean as thoroughly as they do the schools, then we could play ball. Then we could discuss this and figure out a way to do this. But I think those are really important guarantees to get before I'm putting my staff and library services at risk.
Well, the other concern I have is we want to reopen those branches someday.
Right.
And why, having a program that's supposed to run the whole school year is, the two of those don't cross paths very well. So I want to take this up under new business. So let's continue that conversation and our concerns, because I think that deserves a lot of attention. I just want to move past the director's report. Go ahead, Ann.
The elevator.
Yep. Our favorite topic.
I know, but what is it with this elevator that it's perennially a problem? Do we need to replace it? Is there something really wrong with it? Why does this keep coming up as a...
The problem is nobody really seems to be sure. From what I understand, we've gone through, before my time, gone through 2 or 3 other elevator companies, and there have been different problems with it, with the oil. This most recent problem of it not leveling correctly, and the speed not being correct, either too fast or too slow. This has been a couple years now. And the city elevator comes and they always say like, oh, well, it's this gauge or valve or whatever. And they fix it and it works for a couple weeks and then it doesn't work again. They came Sean Meager, one of our custodians, called them to do just a checkup of everything right before we reopened to staff. And they fixed everything and it was working fine. And that was about 2 weeks before the inspection. So in the course of that 2 weeks, basically, everything got unadjusted or whatever the problem is. And nobody seems to be able to figure out what the problem is. It's just something that we have kind of learned to live with. And we've been lucky with the inspection so far, I assume.
Who's paying for all these repairs?
We are, and the city is. We have our outside services budget, and we also have a capital account for a capital account that we've been using to pay for some elevator services as well. But the city is. This company didn't install it. So they're just here to try to fix what they can. And I don't know more about it than that, unfortunately. I kind of started this and...
Go ahead. Right, I know, we've been going...
I know. Well,
forever.
The inspection is October 15th. Oh, no, we have until October 15th. Well, I would think
until October 15th
to
have our temporary certificate of compliance is good through October 15th. So from what I understand is that I will contact them and they will contact me, the state and I, at the beginning of October to set up a new inspection. And then at the beginning of September, we're going to contact City Elevator to have them come in and figure out if they can one more time figure out what's happening and why. But the problem is, I think at this point we could get it fixed enough to pass inspection, but then 2 weeks later, the same thing is going to happen.
Right.
Not on there.
No,
because
it's not safe. So.
What else is on?
Dawn, I can hear you.
Hey,
Hi, Dawn.
can you hear me?
We
Hello?
can hear you. Hello.
Hello. No, I've been on all the time, but I couldn't get on with you guys, but
Okay.
you can't see me, can you?
We can't see you. That's okay.
Thanks a lot. Hey, better?
What was that?
Okay, but I've been here all along.
Okay,
and only
great.
recently just click on so I can speak. So go
Okay.
ahead, please. Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. So we're wrapping up the director's report and didn't know, we're going to move on to further discussion of some of these things, but just anyone else had any comments or questions for Kate before we move on from the director's report? Okay, do I hear a motion to accept? Oh, go ahead again. Go ahead, Ian.
To accept.
But this is about certification from the state. Are we decertified?
Not
Where
technically.
are we? How does that work? What are we doing?
So I fill out the financial reporting documents for the state, which is applying for certification by October 4th, I believe, in like the next 2 months, basically. So at that point, that's when I basically have to tell the state that instead of getting the 2.5% increase that we need to stay certified, we in fact got our budget cut more than the 5% that is allowed. So I will be applying at that time for a waiver. And basically then we sit tight until January. But that whole time I have to be working with City Hall to basically there's an onus put on to City Hall then where they have to promise and they have to prove and they have to come up with a plan with me about how they're going to get us back up to correct funding over the course of a couple years. So it's something that the city will have to be involved with as well. Like the mayor's office and finance will have to be involved in as well because they are, it's essentially seen as their fault. So they have to be, they're on the hook for proving why we should get a waiver and how this won't keep happening to us. And that lasts for a couple months. And then in January, February, I believe there's hearings essentially, from what I understand, where myself and somebody from the city will have to go in front of the MDLC, and I assume virtually these days, and basically make our case. And then it's voted upon. And then at the end of, in January, February is when I assume, given that our cuts were so drastic compared to other city departments, they will vote to not give us a waiver because the city, we do not deserve it. And at that point, it'll be officially out there that we have not been certified for FY21. It's weirdly backdated, but it will be out there that we're not certified. So at that point, other libraries will have the choice, and I hope they do, to stop lending to our patrons, and we will lose access to grant funding and all that good stuff. And we won't get our check of state.
The same business we went through last.
Yeah. Right. And then that lasts then through the next January, basically. So it's all of calendar year 21. So then next October, in a best case scenario, we'd apply with FY22 numbers and say, look, we got our money back, hooray. And then they would vote the next January, yay or nay. But again, it takes based on how budgets are looking, and it's going to take, I don't think it's going to be a 1 year decertification for us. 17.21% is a lot of, it's a huge number. I don't think we're going to get it back in 1 year. So.
Go ahead, Wes.
Kate, just a quick question. It will depend on how the budget is cut next year or not cut. Does that budget number begin with where we were this year, or does it go back to the previous?
Yeah.
So the way a normal year of certification, basically I would going into the so next March, going into the FY22 budget cycle, I would take our past 3 years budgets. So this year's low budget plus FY19 and FY20 and FY19, add them together and average them, and then add, I think, 2.5% to that. So because this year's budget is so low, it makes it a little bit easier next year, because the averages, the average we were dealing with this year, that 17.21 was off of our last 3 years, which was a lot of money. That was a lot of money we were losing off of a lot of money, basically. Every year it evens out a little bit, but it's going to take a couple years, I think, to get back to even funding. And that's without this pandemic continuing and city budgets continuing to be cut because, the rest of it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
No, it's depressing. Go ahead, Don.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify one thing on the certification issue. Have you spoken to any of your fellow directors around any other cities? I'm just interested in, wouldn't we be in the same boat as a lot of other cities who are greatly reduced in funds coming from the state?
So that yes and no. Some libraries, based on other libraries I speak with, I've gotten level funded. I know like a couple libraries around here are hiring right now in Noble. Some libraries are totally fine and they got level funded, which is great for them, and I'm jealous. Other libraries in cities more close to ours have also sustained cuts, if not layoffs and furloughs. However, the issue is not necessarily the issue if you're not getting your level funding or your 2.5%, the issue stops being how much you're decreased. The issue is more important how much you were cut based on other city departments. So that's the concern, is not that we were cut the 17.21 necessarily. If the rest of the city departments not on the school side had also been cut, 15%, we would still get a waiver, and the MBLC would basically say, okay, everybody's hurting. Most importantly, the library is not disproportionately cut, and the library was not, the library is not picked on, essentially. Right now, I still have not received an answer from the mayor's office or from city finance about what the city side cuts, not including the school department, were. So I don't know what the total city cuts were, but the concern now is not the 17%. The concern is how much the rest of the departments were cut versus us. So other cities may have gotten even a 25 or 30% cut, but if the rest of their city departments were cut evenly, they will still get a waiver. At that point, the waiver is about equality and equity, not actual percentage, if that makes sense.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Okay, all right, thank you. I just wanted to know if we were in the same boat, and you've answered that as well as you can without all the
Yeah,
facts.
and I don't know other libraries that have gotten cuts. I'm not sure where they are and compared to their other libraries. I do know that the MBLC always has workshops for filling out the financial reporting, and this year they've added a bunch of workshops for filling out waivers. So they anticipate a lot of waivers, but I think from what I've talked to them, they anticipate waivers based on not getting the increase. I don't think they don't anticipate seeing many libraries in our situation where we got cut so much more than other city departments. We seem to be not in the majority from what I've heard just speaking to MBLC people.
Okay, thank you.
okay. Do I hear a motion to accept the director's report?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
Kate, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's move on. Okay, let's do a quick reports of the committees. I don't think we have too much going on in that world. Hold on one second, please. Oops. Okay, buildings and grounds, Wes?
No, besides sharing the director's frustration with the elevator, I don't have anything in
Yep.
addition to report.
Okay. Audubon Prince, Mr. Shuhan? Rick, do you hear us?
Yeah, that's been moved for further
That's right.
discussion.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Yep. John McAllister, personnel?
Nothing more than was the director's report. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Policies and procedure, Kate O'Brien?
The additional policy for the library of things that
Okay.
Kate proposed.
Okay, so we will move on that when we hit the new business, okay?
Yep.
Friends of the Peabody Institute Library?
None so far.
Morgan? Yeah, I'm sure things are quiet right now. And same, Tom, with the Historical Society?
Nothing to report other than what the director has in a report regarding cable TV, the PAT, sorry, and the Historical Society.
Okay, thank you. And then Anne, the foundation?
There's been no activities.
Okay, very good, thank you. Okay. Okay, so let's move on to unfinished business. We tabled the Audubon Prince to our next meeting. The assistant director position, we have had discussions about that. And we would like to proceed with having that posting take place. And we're waiting on the Human Resources Director, Beth. I've inquired a couple of times via email to ask for that position to be posted. And I am not hearing back yet. So any other comments? I would like to have that happen as soon as possible, but we're kind of stuck without getting communication from City Hall.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Can we make a motion that we can vote on to say that the library trustees want the director of the library and the president of the library trust with an internal posting to make that a permanent position?
I don't see why not.
Does that make sense?
Can we do that?
Well, we can, I don't see why we can't. We can at least make a directive so that so Beth and the mayor are aware that we are all in support of that as a board. So I think to have them formally recognize that, maybe that'll help them move to the next step as well, that they can check that box off and say, okay, the board's ready to roll, and they have a formal support from the board. So I would think that would be helpful to them.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's certainly worth a try.
Yeah, sure. Okay,
Do you want to make a motion?
please.
All right, so I make a motion that we vote on that we move on an internal posting and a socially distant posting so that we can move on the assistant library director to make it a permanent position.
Yes.
Is that okay?
It was a little unclear what you were saying.
Yeah, so Madeline, if
Kind
you,
of garbled.
yeah, so we're, Mr. Shuhan's making a motion to direct the City of Peabody's Human Resource Department to internally post the Assistant Library Director position for a permanent position.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you, Stephanie. That was much better.
No.
Do we have to have an approval though? Who's making the first and second? Okay.
So that was Rick Shuhan made the motion. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Okay.
Second.
Stephanie Delaire seconded that, Madeline. And then all in favor, can I see a hand, please?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor. So that was unanimous, all in favor.
Okay, so the upshot of this is that Ally will become officially the assistant library director.
Correct, because she's been an interim for
She's
what,
been interim,
yeah,
right?
she's been interim all these months. And it also has to do with the equity of the work she's been doing.
Oh, absolutely.
Financially compensated for that position because she has not been. So that's why we're pushing to get this done, because that's the right thing to do, of course. So,
Yes.
And if I can just say, Al has been remarkable.
yeah.
This has been
Wonderful.
an incredibly hard situation for all of the staff. Al has stepped into this interim position back in October when I think both of us were kind of in shock about what was happening and the changes that were happening. She had been back from maternity leave, I think, for like a month or something absurd like that, and jumped right into this and has spent the last almost year helping me and helping the staff, being incredibly positive, and the staff, from what I understand, respect her immensely. The two of us, if I can say that, make a remarkable team. We complement each other and challenge each other, and I think that we are really strong leadership team for the library, and I would be honored to officially call her the assistant director, and I think the library is extremely lucky to have her.
I agree. I think we're very lucky. So thank you for that. Okay, so we will, I'm not sure if we need to send a letter to City Hall then, I guess, expressing that vote, right? I think that makes sense. I'll talk to you about that.
It certainly does.
Yeah, I think we'll just, I'll just summarize the motion and send it off to City Hall, I guess. Okay? And then quickly, because I want to move along because this is a long meeting. I know Ann Quinn, regarding old business, the Chickering piano, Ann was inquiring if that gentleman could go in and look at the piano. And because of the state of COVID and that no one is allowed in the building, we have to, that has to go on the back burner for now. It doesn't mean we can't revisit it, but with the financial situation on top of everything else, it's really not a priority to get that happening.
Right. I sent an email to this fellow, and he just was very gracious and said, "Whenever you get ready to get the thing, I'm around."
Okay, cool. That's great.
It's unfortunate, and the thing is, I mean, maybe it's worth considering just whether this thing is has any value. We could just sell it. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. That's
We'll see.
we
We'll
could
just-
discuss that too.
We'll just
Okay, great. Thank you. And moving on to new business.
Well, can I just say something?
Yeah, sure.
Here we have Stephanie's here and Rich is down here, but his name says Stephanie.
Oh, there's two Stephanies here. Maybe that's why.
See, I'm just confused.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I'm sorry.
I just raised that.
No, I see what you mean.
Has nothing to do with,
I can't see what you're seeing.
oh, really?
I see just
Yeah.
everyone's name on their square.
And down here is
Okay. I'm not seeing that.
Stephanie.
Okay, maybe because I'm talking? I don't know.
I don't know. All right.
All right, let's, okay. Sorry, I can't help you with that. Okay, on to new business. So I guess in any order, but let's talk about going, having your staff in the building, Kate, in the main branch. Okay, so you were recommending to bring your staff back?
Yep.
Okay. And I don't know, do we need to make a motion for that? Because that's just a staffing issue. I don't know if we need, do we need to make a motion to support that?
I wouldn't think so because it's staffing, which normally is, I kind of have.
You.
I just wanted to make people aware of that we're going to
Sure.
be changing the model a little bit.
Okay.
There's curbside is so labor intensive and exhausting in a good way, but also in the way that means that I think there are a lot of other projects that staff want to do that there just simply is not enough time to do it in one 9 to 5 day. And we're also having the problem where there's a lack of continuity where if you're there every other day, it's hard to get a project going and then go home for a day. And people are still working their full hours from home and taking things home with them, but it's hard to have that collaboration, even yelling from 6 feet away, that we are used to having in the building. Normally the library is a very social place and a lot of our brainstorming happens in the same room or in the same building. And we're missing out on a lot of that. And people are having great ideas, but it's tough when we're not all together. We have plenty of space. The hope is that unless this daycare thing changes things, but the hope is that the branch staff will be 2 days in the main library, their normal curbside days in the main library, and then 2 days still at the branches doing projects from the branches. And then all main library staff will be in there 4 days a week. And we have plenty of space based on the mandates, have everybody socially distanced and working in their own area. And it's going to take some shuffling of people into different offices, but there's plenty of space to do it. We just have to do it.
Okay. All right, that's great. So just keep us posted next time. You know, you can give us an update on how that's working out for you. But that's
Thank you.
exciting news, actually. to
It
kind of,
is.
you know,
I think that it's going to be hard because we're all scared still. I mean, nobody waltzes into work and is like, great, another mask day. I know that we're all nervous constantly. And we're all nervous about this. And I know that staff might be a bit nervous about spending more time together. The good thing about what we've been doing for the past couple months is we've had 2 different cohorts that have worked every other day together. So it's, a lack of, if there was exposure, there's less of that. But the services of the library are really being affected. And I do think we've nailed down a way to do this safely. So legally, we're able to do it based on the numbers that we have to meet. And I think it's time to let people do more creative work. They're ready for it.
That's awesome. Great. Okay, and then we have Kate. I know you brought up the Library of Things.
Yes.
If you want to take
Who was
that.
Katie talking to?
Kate
Which Kate?
O'Brien. Sorry.
Well, so you can actually just talk to Kate because I got it when she emailed it to us today. So
Okay.
Sorry.
no, it's okay.
So the Library of Things was started under Kelly's watch a couple years ago and then passed on to Gabby when Kelly left. It's a library of stuff. It's things that we're able to lend out to patrons for a couple weeks that is not our normal books and music and DVDs and everything. And we do have ukuleles and yoga kits and drawing kits and art kits that we restock, and turntables. And we have like a kilowatt meter where you can text your electricity. We have Instax cameras. We have stuff that we've been lending out for a couple months, and then the pandemic hit and that all kind of went back in boxes. We had originally said we weren't going to lend stuff out during this pandemic because of quarantine issues, and then realized we can just quarantine them the same way. And we figured out a way to, people will still check them out through Curbside Pickup, just like a normal item. And we have in the lending policy, which you can see at the bottom, a couple asterisks during curbside pickup days, which is these days for the indefinite future. You're only allowed to return that during our curbside pickup hours, where we're going to have a specially labeled bin outside the children's room entrance. Otherwise, stuff will get broken. So that's part of the rules. In general, we've been lending out stuff. We had been lending out stuff for a couple months before we closed down, and it was really well received, and people were really great about it. Nothing was lost or broken or stolen or anything. So I don't really foresee any issues with that. Gabby has a huge list of things she's going to be purchasing to add to make this a fully fleshed out collection for all ages. It's really exciting because it's a lot of it's, family-based stuff and activities and stuff to learn how to do, which I think is a perfect thing to do these days. So the policy basically says, this is how you check it out. 2 weeks, you can't return it, or you can't renew it. I'm sorry. This is how you check it out. This is how you return it. So Assabet is the company, that we use for our online events calendar and our museum passes. We are going to be, they just debuted a Library of Things module where our current system, if you want to check out a ukulele, basically if one isn't available, you just have to put a hold on it, which is like a hold on a James Patterson book, which means that it just kind of pops up when it's ready. It could be 2 weeks from now, it could be 3 months. I hope you wanted a ukulele in 3 months. But this Assabet thing, it's more of like a booking system. So you'll see for each item on Assabet will have, like our museum passes, will have all the information about the item, what's included, the specific rules that go with each item, like cake pans, they have to be washed, that kind of thing. And then you'll actually be able to see the availability of the item. And we will build into every item essentially will be available for a 2-week chunk of time, and then a 1-week quarantine period between patrons. So basically every 3 weeks, somebody will have access to a ukulele. But you can actually go and say, I'm having a party in 3 months. I need the ukulele the first week of November, and actually place a hold on it for that specific date that you need the item. So we're excited. I think it's going to be a really good service to add to our curbside services, and we're ready to go.
Awesome. Good for you. Okay. So we'll look forward to hearing more about that, how it all went next month. And then lastly,
Anne has a question, Stephanie.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Anne.
Personally, I think this is silly, and it's beyond the scope of what the library ought to be doing, especially given this difficult time when your staff is stressed enough working with, dealing with traditional library materials. So
I think anything educational is okay. Go ahead, Morgan.
I know these things have been asked for years now, and especially people can't have access to this kind of thing from stores, from really anywhere else. And so this is one of the places that can do it and then quarantine it consistently with their books. I think is like a great thing for you guys to be doing.
Go ahead, Kate.
I think that limited resources in the library.
I think they're happy to do. This is one of the things that they want to follow through on, because if people are asking and it's educational and it's support.
I mean, the next thing, what are you going to do? With lawnmowers?
I know. Well,
Some of the things we're going to do in the spring. In the spring, we will be lending out gardening tools. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. These are things that patrons want because they want to learn how to do something or accomplish something. Not all of our books and movies and DVDs are educational. Some library things are purely entertainment, which I'm fully behind. And these things give a way for people to connect. And I would never introduce something that I thought would stress my staff out more and be beyond their resources to handle. This is something we have thought about. It will be something that is just another thing that people check out through Curbside Pickup. And again, I would never introduce something that I thought would stretch my staff too far.
So of that policy, go ahead, Wes.
No, I just want to ask Kate. So my understanding is we've been doing this right along. Yeah. This is not something new. You're just creating a policy to make it work with Curbside Pickup.
We've been cobbling together items over the past year or two and lending them out when they became available. And we realized we had no comprehensive policy for more things. And we will, part of what I mentioned in the director's report is that we will be purchasing Chromebooks and many more hotspots, wireless hotspots to lend out as well during the Library of Things. And in our last meeting, I believe, we voted on the lending policy for the hotspots because those are a different, those have a different nature to them. And then we'll also have a different lending policy for the specifics of a Chromebook. But we've been doing this for years. This is just kind of formalizing it and expanding upon something that people have loved for the last couple of years.
That's great.
Go ahead, Tom.
So I'm looking at this, and one of the first concerns that I had was the cleanliness during the pandemic. Then I saw your asterisks down below with the quarantining, which made me happy. And then I started thinking more about, well, we lend out books. People come by and pick up books, and books have the same type of exposure to any contaminants from COVID, right? So this really is just another object that we're lending that patrons do like. And I'm thinking it's actually a good idea. We have activity at the library. You're practicing quarantining the items, so there isn't going to be any spreading of diseases through this type of a lending thing, which is still good. And people are still getting services during this kind of like shutdown that we're going through. So we're still having a presence in the community and serving the people, and I think that's kind of important to actually uphold, because that's what we're here for, is to make sure this library keeps contributing to the community in a way that's important, and respecting what you have to say, Kate. I know that you're not going to put something out there that's going to break the backs of your staff, and this is just a program that they do believe in as well as you. I think it's a good idea. Now, looking at your director's report here, are you looking for a motion to approve this policy tonight?
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
All right. Is it okay, Stephanie, if I can make a motion to approve?
Please do.
Okay.
second.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Library of Things circulation policy presented this evening by Kate Merlin.
Second.
Second.
Second,
Okay, we have a second on Morgan, Madeline. And all in favor, can I see hands, please? All in favor? And any opposed? Any
Abstain.
opposed? Rick, you're opposed? Anyone else?
Abstain.
All right, hold on. I need to be clear so more Madeline can see. So Rick, you're opposed.
I'm in favor.
Oh, your favor. Okay, you put your hand up late. And Anne is abstaining, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have that, Madeline?
Yep.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, and lastly, on new business is we need to discuss this, the use of the 2 branch libraries for FKO's request. I would just like to, I would like to hear from most of you, just for your opinion. A couple reasons I am not in favor is, one, I want to have the ability to open the branches when they are able to open without having this obstacle in the way of a third party utilizing our building. And secondly, it's just limiting, you only can have so many people, and our staff is still working there. So these are working buildings for library purposes, and I feel like those 2 paths are not going to cross very well. So those are my opinions, but go ahead. Morgan, go ahead.
So thinking of the space to be taking up and where their staff desks located at the South Branch, Betsy's desk is in that area that they want to use, and all of her stuff would be, it's capable of being touched by kids. I mean, there's books behind there, there's games in there in that room. A lot of things that have to be removed, which I don't think is utmost important to the library. I don't think having children in there is a good idea with books, toys.
Right.
PlayStation, like the play areas around. And then for the West Branch, the children's librarian's desk is in that room where they would be having their classroom, or
No, they'd be in the programming room, not in the main.
But still, it's a huge area to have to then clean so many days a week to have staff back in there. And like Stephanie said, that the importance is to have those branches back open for library things and not for childcare.
And Kate, you did bring up a point that we're really not supposed to be renting space out and collecting money for a public library. Does not serve that purpose.
And I know that. Sorry, I know that there are. I'm not sure how that's going to work. I just know that the FKO program now is not free. And I'm sure that legally there could be exceptions made because we're not open to the public. But then as soon as we become open to the public, it causes big.
Where are they going to go? You got to boot them out. Right. You know what I mean? It's like then they're at a loss. They should start where they can end. For their sake too. It's in their best interest to be in a space that they're not going to get booted out of or cause a major conflict and more stress on our staff that's already, trying to make things work. And we have all those resources that the library is using. You're going to the branches to get things that people are asking for. You guys are in and out of those buildings. Is that correct?
Yep, we have staff in there 4 days a week.
Yeah. So it just doesn't make sense to me. Go ahead, Ann.
Well, I sent Kate an email earlier and it's just a bad idea.
Okay, so you're a bad idea too. So go ahead, Kate O'Brien.
So I wonder if we should at least be open to this, to like, we're being a team player, we're in the middle of a crisis, we're being part of the city. I really think that we need to be a team player in the city and maybe leverage this for, getting more funding as things change this fall. I
agree that being a team player is extremely important right now with all of this. And I'm not against this idea at all. I can see ways to do it. There are just logistics to work out. But yeah, I see what you mean, Kate.
I guess, yeah, and another question I have for whoever's, on this group deciding is, what about other space that's not being used at all, like doesn't have staff in it? For example, the senior center is a huge building with lots of rooms that they can utilize, including an auditorium. They have a lot of space over there versus a small little branch library that has, once you put your limits of people that are allowed to be in one room together, they're small spaces comparatively to. So I would like to know if all of that has been exhausted as well before, having the library take it on. So I think that's fair to make sure those spaces are being looked at as well.
Looking at the numbers, I would guess they would have to be using other spaces because you'd really only be having such a small number of kids anyways. So I wonder if they're using like every empty.
Well, I don't know.
I know there's the YMCA will be doing some of this as well. And past that, I haven't been told of any other spaces that have been approached.
Yeah.
Question: Are we still using the ground floor of the West Library for city offices?
Yes.
We are, okay. I would think that would be an ideal space for this situation had it been opened.
That's basically the head of DPS, right? That's like the main office of DPS right now.
Okay. Is there any kind of a compromise instead of giving them both buildings that we can give partial space and make it work? Any other ideas like that?
The problem is if you look at also the numbers of how many people are let into the room, they're really tiny groups.
Okay.
The West Branch program room can hold basically 9 people. So that's 7 kids and 2 staff members. And at the South, you're talking literally 3 kids and 2 staff members. So the numbers are these are tiny groups. These are pretty small groups of kids.
Are they happy with 3 kids and 2 a staff member? I mean, is that even doable for them?
So when I spoke with them today, I had one of my custodians, Tamika's, basically running around figuring out square footage for me because I wasn't sure exactly. I had the property records, but I didn't know which was which. So I didn't know. I assumed that we'd do like 10 to 15 per room. And then the email that I'm going to send an email tomorrow with updates, including these really tiny numbers, because at some point it's not worth it for anybody when we're talking 3 kids and 5 kids. It's not many.
So small, like those kids they probably don't even want to be in such a small group. That's such a tiny little portion to, and when you look at all these kids, you'd want a fun, because I know at the Higgins, they're running a program this summer there, and there's lots of kids, and there's definitely more than, 2 to 3 kids in a room. It's a much more robust program there.
And money-wise, that's paying 2 staff members for 3 kids. That's also really expensive for the city.
Yeah,
that doesn't make sense.
If they make that decision, and if we're saying yes, we're still being like a team player. We're saying yes. We're, I don't know, trying to when more budget stuff is coming up, I wonder if the more things we're willing to work with them for helps our cause.
We definitely plan tomorrow on just letting them know the numbers of the capacity and what would make it work on our end, and go from there and see what decisions are made.
Okay. So the bathrooms that are at the south and the west, there's only, how many bathrooms are available to anybody? At each?
Two basically at each. I mean, there's a staff restroom at the west plus two, I think, public restrooms. Maybe forgetting one. And then at the south, there are two, I believe, at the south.
Yeah,
And they're
just, yeah.
they're
Yeah.
staff and patron
So
bathrooms.
so the staff at the library, your library staff is gonna have to share the bathrooms with their staff and their children.
Right.
Okay, so I don't know how that works. I really don't know what.
Well, the only way it works is if staff is not permitted in the building on days when the kids are there.
What does that mean to library services? I guess that's where I'm coming from, is where,
Yeah.
what does that mean for you being able to get what you need out of that building to
Well,
bring for curbside pickup?
right now we have staff there 4 days a week, and the first thing they do every morning is pull the books and send them over. It means a longer delay for patrons. Right now there's a day or so delay when people play. At the beginning it was a longer lead time because we were working through months of holds, but now now basically you place holds overnight and you get a notification the next day that they're ready. If books are coming from the branch, it might take an extra day. But now if you're placing if we're only allowed to go in there on Wednesdays, assuming it's been cleaned properly when the kids aren't there. So we're pulling books once a week, basically. So that means either we're, and it's, patrons may be okay coming back multiple times to pick up 4 books 4 different times. That may be fine with them. It just seems, it's kind of tedious though, but it means that the curbside service slows down. It also means that it gets more difficult at the main library to have all 24, 23 staff in there all the time without any, that's a lot more people in one building. It's again doable, it's just more cramped and a little, less spaced.
Now, we're library trustees and we're supposed to advocate for the library, and we're about books, we're about services, we're about, these patrons that are coming out during this pandemic, picking up books all the time. And I didn't take an oath to be a daycare director or a trustee. And I don't mean that with any disrespect. I'm all for parents. I am a parent myself, and my son used to be in daycare too. But if this is not the best space for doing a daycare service and offering to the community, it might even be detrimental as offering it as a space to these children. And I'm very concerned that we're going to put these kids in a very small room with 2 adults, and we're going to be exposing these children. And I don't want to be responsible for setting up a scenario where these kids can be exposed to any kind of a COVID type of a virus. I'm not feeling very comfortable about this proposition based on what you're telling me, Kate, that you only have so many people allowed in a building and we're going to pile up more people. I don't think we're out of this COVID situation yet based on all the things that we're seeing going across this country. And in the fall, when everybody starts getting back together again, schools are getting together, sports are getting together, I think you possibly, based on the facts that we've been seeing, and see a return of cases of COVID happening. And I'm just not very comfortable putting kids in any kind of harm in our library, especially being a library trustee when I'm for the libraries and for community. I don't think it's appropriate right now.
Dan. Go ahead,
I
Ian.
would just like to throw in on.
I'd like to
that,
reinforce what.
Time out. Go ahead. Ann, go ahead. John, wait one moment, please.
Okay, I'd just like to reinforce what Tom said. We're library trustees. That's our focus. We have to deal with the issues related to the library functioning. And I think this is something so outside of our purview that we should just.
Right, well, it's true. I don't know what the right answer is here. I agree with you, Kate O'Brien. I'm definitely a team player, but this just seems out of my realm to figure out how this is going to work. And
we have enough issues related to the library and all the issues that we're dealing with right now, that this is something so outside of our area.
Right. I want the staff to be comfortable. I want to continue services, which is our main purpose for our patrons, and not be more limiting than we already are. We're already limiting. We've taken a huge step backwards here, trying to ramp up just a curbside pickup program.
Right.
So I feel like we're in a kind of not a great position to be in to make these decisions, but. Anyway, that's just.
This isn't our problem.
Yeah, go ahead, John McAllister. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to one of my concerns would be besides what has already been eloquently stated as problems with this, you're going to have custodians go in who are already going to be stretched thin to clean some of the areas, cleaning those rooms to a degree where even in a couple of days or whatever it was, those people could return. So there's a big problem, I think, as far as keeping the rooms clean in terms of the COVID possibilities. And then again, as soon as you open up the library, this issue and only serving like about 7 kids is gone, because then it'll be, if you can't come to the library, then why should it be a daycare? I'm not saying that we don't want to be team players, but I think there's too many issues and possibilities for problems for the library too. Heaven forbid any issues about where somebody caught the virus. So
my understanding.
That's all I just wanted to say.
Okay, I'm sorry. My understanding, and Kate, you'll be able to verify this when you further your conversations with the group, is that FKO takes responsibility for cleaning. I think, if I'm not mistaken, cleaning the space.
I don't know.
I'm not sure, but just from what I'm trying to remember how it's happening right now at the Higgins. But you can easily find that out when you have further discussions about all of that. But I mean, if it's going to tax, they take over that responsibility so that what Dawn said doesn't happen. So you're not taxing the staff.
Right.
That's already, our custodial staff, but I don't know how, I'm not sure. So do we have to do we need to make a motion, or you just want to share that information with us at this point? We don't
Yes.
need to be voting on anything, correct?
I just wanted to kind of get a litmus test of where you all are. This is where I was on Friday, so welcome.
Yeah, no problem.
I think there are a lot of considerations to take into account, and I think my plan is just to present the facts of how many kids we can accommodate and what we would need to make this work for the library, because we are still first and foremost a library serving the entire community.
Okay.
And go from there.
So please keep us posted if there's any further meetings that you have. Please keep us posted on that. Anne, go ahead. I want to wrap up.
I just wonder, without a formal motion, if we could just generate a sense of the board that would support Kate in her discussions.
Well, I think are you comfortable with our comments, Kate?
I think that in terms of getting an idea where the board is, I feel like there are a lot of discussions still to be had with the school department. I would feel uncomfortable making an official motion right now because
there's no official word from us. I know
Right.
a lot of concerns and we have a lot of questions. So I think you can go to them stating that the board has a lot of questions, concerns. Library services come first. Staff safety comes first. So with that being said, you can go ahead and have further discussions, but obviously I don't know that you can commit to anything. I'm not sure how that works, if she can commit to anything without our approval. So just gain information.
And I think I would also like to figure out if this is a paid service. I think we need to do research into what that means for us. If that automatically makes it a no-go because that's against our charter, then that's done, right? Or if it's possible to make an exception. I don't know legally how any of this works. So I think we'd need to, I could easily see this being an exception because it's a pandemic and we're not open to the public and, a lot of extenuating circumstances, but I'm not sure. And I don't know how to even go about that, but I would like to nail down what the official policies, I guess, or rules are towards this. If anybody has any suggestions.
Well, maybe that could be part of because I know a lot of kids get waivers for FKO, and maybe only kids with waivers.
Yeah.
I don't know if that covers it or not, but.
Right. Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, I was just thinking, nobody had mentioned this aspect of it, but what would the general public think if they know the branches are being used for daycare, but the branches aren't open for use as a library? Do you think that's going to go over well with the general public?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point, Peter. Go ahead, Kate.
I think that I don't think it would go over. I think it would be a mixed bag. I think there would be some people that would wish the library is open for library services, and then some people that would understand it's needed for kids because the school year is certainly unprecedented and nuts, and the city is doing what it can to accommodate kids. I'm not concerned about the public point of view on this because I think there will be people on both sides of the issue, and both sides of the issue will be right from their own points of view.
Right.
I think that it's also understood that it's not open for, kids just coming and hanging out at the library. It's a structured program with professional licensed teachers. And also one of the thing is these spaces do need to officially be licensed as daycare locations or by daycare centers by the state. So that's another thing. I think it would be seen as it's a controlled professional program that's has to be done, and we're not offering it for fun. I think that the public opinion would be mixed, but generally pretty positive because we're doing what we can to help the city, which comes into the whole team player thing that Kate was talking about, which puts us in a difficult and awkward position.
Stephanie?
I think just before we even entertain this further, we need an actual action plan, the steps that they would take, the steps that we need to take, because this is a huge ordeal and a huge uptaking. So I don't even think we're even there yet.
Right,
Well,
and we're not.
September 14th is coming quickly.
This first reopening meeting that floated these other organizations happened on Friday. We had a meeting today, and then we have a meeting scheduled for next Monday. So this is, I think things are going to move pretty quickly because if things need to be licensed and FKO has to hire more staff, this is going to all have to move very, very, very quickly. And so decisions are going to have to be made quickly, which is why I'm going to send my this is what our concerns are and our opportunities are tomorrow. Because I know there's a gazillion moving pieces, but there is no action plan yet. There's no details yet. There's just kind of a hypothetical, this could work or not at this point. It's pretty up in the air still, but I think you're right. An action plan needs to be happened before we can say yes or no, because there's a lot of things to consider here.
Thank you, Kate. Go ahead, Ann. I do want to wrap up. It's 8:20.
I know. Quickly, I just want to support what Peter said about, closed to the public. And so how does this comport with that? So I just raise that.
Okay.
We should keep in mind too that the families that this will be helping and supporting are those families that are really struggling right now during this pandemic. And that's who we should be supporting and helping. And if
but is that the mission of the library?
To support the community? Yeah.
No.
Well, it's a differing of opinion, and everyone's entitled to their point of view on how this is going down. But let's not be too hasty. Let's just take it one step at a time. And Kate and Merlin, thank you for all this information. And you can just shoot an email out to us when you have anything pertinent to feedback after your next meeting with them.
Yes.
Okay. Because if the library is going to be closed, I mean, that's the whole thing. There's that balance too. Is the library going to be closed? The branch is going to be closed for the whole year. What's the intention? That whole thing. There's a lot up in the air. So we re-meet again September 14th. Is our next meeting, because the 7th, the first Monday, is Labor Day. So we will be meeting again on the 14th. So please mark your calendars. And then in the meantime, Kate, we'll just wait to hear from you, Kate Merlin, on any updates with how your staff is doing, coming back, more on a full-time basis, and what's happening with FKO. Okay.
Thank you. I will be ready for lots of emails.
Okay, I know, but thank you. Okay.
Bravo, Kate.
I know, Kate, thank you. You're a rock star for sure.
And I just want to say, not to be cheesy, but I really appreciate all of your support during this. It's been quite a crazy time, and I really appreciate the support you're giving us for staff and trusting us to know best and make the right decisions in terms of what works for staff and patrons and services. This is, we're all making this up as we go along, but having your support makes it a lot easier, if that is even possible, make it easier. But I really do appreciate all the support I've gotten from all of you through this weird time.
Okay, do I hear a motion to
adjourn? So moved.
Okay, thank you, everyone, and we'll see you in person on Zoom on the 14th.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.